Hi there. So, today I'm going, uh, not at the request of someone, but somebody asked me for some Zen tips the other day, and I figured that between, uh, my former experience playing Zenyatta for, my, the Trine Esports teams, uh, I would try to give some tips, and then, so some of these will be tips that I personally follow, and then some tips that I've taken from former coaches, or I mean, not former coaches, other higher level players than myself that I've watched. Some of the tips I've learned from them. Okay, so the first thing, basic aim tip. Um, Zenyatta really requires a lot of aim because you need to hit headshots to really get all the value he can get. Okay, finally I hit one on the last one. So the trick to get a rough working on your aim is crosshair placement. This is especially important against players that actually move. So you never want to be looking down at the ground or have your mouse up in the sky. You always, when you turn corners, you always want to make sure you're keeping your crosshair at at head level, so that way you're ready to just flick and throw a projectile at the head. It'll make it a lot easier than having to flick upward. It's a lot harder to hit the head doing that as opposed to just that. So crosshair placement is all about keeping your crosshair at the level where you think an enemy is going to be. So you don't want to be aiming too high or aiming too low. You just want to keep your crosshair where they're going to be. If you see an enemy on high ground, then you can try to correct for it. But generally, you want to keep it level with your character model. Another kind of general aim tip, he is a projectile hero, so if you're going to aim at any moving target, you have to be ready to account for their movement, so we'll do that over here, so they move completely horizontal to me. So if I just shoot straight at focusing on not trying to track them, I throw a projectile at where that other bot is. It's a lot harder to hit him because he's actually moving, and your projectiles travel relatively fast, but they're not hit scan by any means. So you have to shoot where you think they're going to be moving. There, I actually did it a couple times on accident, aiming where they were, not where they were going to be. Some other general tips for using this right click in particular is whenever you're behind cover, you always want to charge a peek, so that way you have a chance to just delete anyone that's either trying to come at you from around the corner, or you just have a volley charged up to try to spam some damage into someone. Oftentimes you'll find that if you are peeking down a narrow sight line, you'll catch an enemy off guard and just if you fling a couple orbs into their head, they'll end up dying, and you'll have just secured a pick for your team. Zen is a support, but players like Jonak get the best value out of him just by doing a lot of damage, getting their own picks, securing their own kills, and using the Discord to help amp their teammates' damage so that their teammates have easier times winning 1v1s or important duels and team fights.
He goes down swinging.
So even in goats, if you're running Zen goats, so Zen, Brig, Lucio, Moira, Lucio, Zen, Brig, Lucio, you want to try, if you're running against a mirror goats, you want to use the Discord on the main tank, because if you can delete their main tank before they delete yours, then you will have a much easier time winning the engagement. I don't think I can show footage for it, but at the World Cup, this was shown when Team UK would all in on Muma, or I don't remember if they played Zen Goats, but any team that ran Zen Goats, they'd all in on the main tank, Discord him, and as soon as that main tank went down, the enemy Goats comp usually just fell apart. Because one team had their main tank, the other did not. Discord's an important part of that.
Embrace tranquility.
Let's see, is that all I can really show in the practice range? Yeah. So, really to get the most out of Zen, you have to practice your aim. And that means practicing leading your shots. For timing your ultimates, you don't want to use it against anything that has really high burst potential. If you're trying to save your teammates, if you're just trying to save yourself, go ahead, I guess. But if you want to get the most value out of it, you really need to save it for things that try to do damage over time. Because using the Transcendence will not stop your teammates from dying to Diva Bomb or Junkrat Tire, so using it will only save yourself. That can be exploited in some ways, like if you try to bait the Junkrat into rip tiring you, but you pop the Transcendence before he actually detonates it on you, then you'll get value that way. But if you're really trying to get the most value, you really need to save it for something like Dragon Strike or Genji Blade, or anything that just doesn't have high burst potential. Let's go into a quick play game so I can kind of play and talk a little bit about how I generally play them. Positioning is very similar to how you'd want to position as Ana. You want to think of yourself as a backline hero, and you don't want to be playing anywhere near the front line. You want to sit back, take shots, heal your team, discord the enemies. You need to keep lines of sight, but you can't be in the middle of the engagement, otherwise you'll get hard focused and destroyed. For my level of play, and even in some of the higher elos, you can't always rely on peel. In my elo, it's because people don't know how to do it right a lot of the time. But for higher level players, the Zenyatta doesn't always need peel other than like his Ana or whoever he's playing with. So if you're playing Ana and Zen, they can sometimes just peel for each other and themselves, because if Zen can hit shots on, say, a Tracer, Discord a headshot, I think, is enough to one-shot her. And if it's not, he can just body her a couple times and melee finish her. Or if he's playing with an Ana, which is those two are a really good combo. She can try and sleep, and Zen can just delete whatever's asleep. Make sure you're communicating with your team. You need to call your discords. That's probably the most important thing.
Traveling to Skya Industries.
In competitive play.
Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
So, let's see. So on Volskaya, this is actually a great place to show that you really want to, like, where you want to set up and think about playing is Zen, because there's a lot of high ground, and you pretty much always want to be high ground. Oh, and since we have an Ana, I'll probably want to try and position by her if she's playing high ground.
A disciplined mind is your most dependable ally.
Not really a great composition to show it off with, but
30 seconds.
the idea is similar. High ground has a lot of value, and if you watch any stream by Jane or well, any coaching videos from Jane or other top players, they use high ground a lot because unless the enemy is running stuff with a lot of vertical mobility, there's not a lot of ways the enemy can really try and deal with you outside of just trying to shoot you. And high ground gives you an advantage in any kind of straight up aim duel. It's easier to get headshots from above, and it's a lot easier to stay safe and back up. And as the Nazarick players I did a coaching video with would say, high ground OP. Because you can use it as a wall. Well, actually, they say walls are OP. Because walls are infinitely infinite health shields. Got the pick on the cannon there.
Our enemy
Sterben nicht.
I'm on fire! Well, more than usual.
And now that the fight's being reset, I'm gonna try and go high ground. Because I really want to try and be as safe as possible from the rest of their team. You really only want to have to give up the high ground if you need to run towards your team for safety.
What is it the witness? None of us administered.
Who's ready to take some punishment?
This would help. Oh, coming back! Fire in the hole!
That was a nice leap from that Ana, though.
Thanks.
Bob, do something! Get in there,
Helden sterben nicht.
Heal up.
experience tranquility.
Pop that a bit late.
Hey,
Here's a little tip.
get in there.
30 seconds remaining. Defense point. Objective B.
High ground again. See, Arana's playing way too far.
Огонь по готовности!
My ultimate is ready.
Don't mess with
That Zarya did not pay attention to me whatsoever. That's good of her. Let me kill her pretty easily. Just walked up and started spamming headshots in Discord.
Smoke that there. Bob, do something.
I am on fire. But everything
Also, as with any hero, you need to know when you need to go aggressive and when you can play when you need to play more reserved. That case, they were already down most of their team. I wasn't really afraid of the Hammond actually being able to kill me, so I just pushed off so I could get easy shots on him. That was an excellent idea. Also, I actually, in a VOD review Jane did, which was actually on Zenyatta, he explicitly mentioned that if you want low ground positioning from high ground, it's actually pretty easy. You just take less than a few seconds. That was kind of stuck there. Yeah, it's really easy to go from high ground to low ground because you just drop down.
is not
Takes up.
preordained.
You don't actually have to leave the fight to do it. But if you're playing low ground, it takes you so much longer to get to high ground because Zen is a slow butt, and I don't know what that Genji was doing. It's a lot harder because look how long it takes me to get up here. Or just in general, it takes you forever to get to high ground because you have to find the stairs, then you have to float up the stairs because Zen cannot change his vertical floating height, I guess. State. Plan.
That should be better.
The cycle begins anew. I am ready.
Огонь по готовности!
Defeat.
I didn't actually think I did that much healing, but I guess I did. Oh well. Yeah, the damage and elims are
Play
up there.
of the game.
That's good.
Огонь по готовности.
I'm selfish and vote for myself because Transcendence healing for over 2,000 healing. So that was my positioning on defense. Let's take a on attack. It's a little bit more interesting because unless you have Lucio, which you don't really want to be playing Zen Lucio unless your team can cope with the low amount of healing it provides.
Select your hero.
You kind of have to be wary of where you are because your team can move in a lot faster than you depending on what they're playing, and you need to be able to not necessarily keep up with them, but make sure they don't split off and completely leave you behind. But again, you still need to play more like Ana or a sniper and stay further away from the front line.
True self is without form.
The destruction caused by the Omnisphere. It reminds me of home.
Attack commences in 30 seconds.
Low temperatures detected.
Get here.
This is nice. I hate to kill you.
안녕. Winky face. Winky face. Winky face.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack commences. Resistance completion.
This would help.
Enemy spotted. Time to save my DPS.
Current status. Securing objective.
Here's a little chin.
And you, yeah.
Overconfidence.
It's unfortunate, but I got left behind at the choke, and I also kind of fed the Zarya a little bit of charge because I threw orbs into Devo when she was bubbled by that Zarya.
Somebody hit me.
Tranquility.
Heal up.
Nanoboost administered. Girl, домоход. Огонь по готовности. Do something!
Taking objective. Support requested.
Experience tranquility.
Dein Schutzengel ist da.
Oh, okay then. Guess somebody switched over to Widow.
Pain is an excellent teacher.
Don't know how we're getting cap. Oh,
Coordinate your attacks on the objective.
I need healing.
another tip that you can use for Zen, hopefully I can actually demonstrate it. At least in some stuff. was about to say, hopefully I have a reason to do it, but I do not.
Game up.
Pain is an excellent
I
teacher.
got deleted.
I need healing.
I've got you covered. Fire in the hole!
My ultimate is almost ready. Attack objective. Taking the objective! Join me in glory!
But there's a couple ways you can also keep corners. So, if you want, you can.
Objective A captured. Commence attack on objective B.
You can.
Helden sterben nicht.
I need healing. I need healing.
Would be appreciated.
Routing power to forward shield.
Come out and face me!
Repetition is the path to mastery.
Now the Widow's on Reaper. Interesting.
Get behind
So,
Here it comes!
Open your mind.
if you're worried, you can click the corner.
Wired in.
Get in there, Bob!
Current status.
Here's a little trick.
Bob! Do something!
Experience tranquility.
Nerf this. All systems checked out.
Somebody get me some healing.
Helden sterben.
That was a wipe.
Victory. Play of the game.
No. That's not the point of what I'm doing right now. I'm actually doing a stream for tips on how to play Zenyatta. If you want to join me after I'm done streaming, you can.
Now arriving at Lijiang Tower.
Oh.
True self is without form.
They had a pink flavor.
Barrier up. No.
I'm under attack.
Note to self, Discord headshot is not a one-shot, but it is almost enough for a one-shot.
Pain
Tracer.
is an excellent teacher.
They're on me.
Second the objective. Attack the objective.
Oh, that's a lag.
Oh, let's break this. Damn!
Surrender to my will.
I am taking the objective. Join me.
I have sighted the enemy.
How embarrassing. Excuse me.
What do you think you're doing?
Pass into the iris. I am on fire, but an extinguisher is not required.
How embarrassing.
Victory.
Oh, okay, I guess I got to play one round. Be done.
Play of the game.
I'm sorry if I'm not talking much. Kind of trying to think about playing and then coaching. I'm not used to it yet. If there's anybody watching that has any questions, I can look at chat if you want to type them.
Welcome to Hollywood.
Or anything to contribute, or just want to say hello.
True self is without form.
My ultimate is charging. My ultimate is...
I hear you.
Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
True self is without form.
Hey,
This is in. So this is going to be a comp that needs to hit fast, hit hard, and you can't play heal greedy. As your for tanks that play with this kind of healer or support setup, you need to not play heal greedy. You need to be thinking defensively and about not taking damage as much as you can with those two. for Hollywood defense, I like to set up on this high ground here, because if you go to the front where there's not really anywhere safe once the enemy gets there, you have to rotate over here, and you have to cross in front of their line of sight. Here, I don't have to ever retreat from anywhere except I can just stay here. The other nice thing is if you drop down, there's a nice health pack right here. So
My systems are
in
repaired.
our composition, since I don't want the Lucio to have to come heal me up all the time, I can just get that health pack.
And back for more! My ultimate is charging. I am ready to activate the sound barrier.
Gale the Mahol.
My ultimate is ready.
Well, I'm not paying you for your acting ability. Let's get moving.
友人の剣を
Dein Schutzengel ist da.
My ultimate's ready.
I am under attack.
Bad guys.
Take something. Get in there, Bob.
Hey,
Here it comes.
Sometimes the best thing you can do on Zen, even if it doesn't seem like it, is just make sure you're discording the right targets. Because even if you're not necessarily getting the kills yourself, if you're discording the right target and your teammates have good focus fire,
Down swinging.
they'll just outpace any kills the other team might get, even if you don't have as much healing as they do.
hey.
Smoke him out of there.
Ouch, that hurt. Probably got more aggressive right there than I should have.
60
But it's
seconds.
okay, because we're still
Is a
trading
flimsy
kills.
shield.
Hello.
Hey,
Great. Ah! Thank you, kind.
Nerf this.
Meteor strike.
Bob, do something.
Helden sterben nicht.
Gale the Mahol.
Experience tranquility. It's
discorded headshots are,
Play
or even
of the game.
discorded body shots are really, really solid.
Ah! Do something!
Oh, let's break it. Damn!
Double. Double.
But I think partly because I'm running out of things to talk about, and partially because I feel like I'm not sure what else I can cover. I mean, really, it's just a lot of mechanical aim practice. If actually, I know what I can do.
My business?
Let's go into a try-hard custom game lobby. Let's play this.
Arriving at Shadowmere.
Now,
Prepare.
my
for
goal will be.
battle. Select your hero.
I don't think I'm gonna finish in the
3,
top 6, maybe.
1.
Because I've never tried so much.
Fight.
True self is without form.
Taken the lead.
Lesson in humility. I am made whole.
Lead lost.
Almost got him.
Pain is an excellent teacher. You refuse to know.
Come on! Time's up.
Meteor strike!
A temporary setback.
I can't catch a break. That Doomfist just finds me everywhere.
I am under attack. Old grudge is on. She goes down swinging. It's Hanu. Adversity is an opportunity. Sisters would be repetition is the path to mastery.
Vamos! Meteor strike!
Experience tranquility. It's Hanu. tranquility.
15 kills to win.
Meteor strike!
My sights. Pain is asked into the iris.
Enemy needs 10 kills to win.
A lesson in humility. Overconfidence is a flimsy shield. Would be appreciated. Overconfidence is a flimsy shield.
Meteor strike!
Enemy needs 4 kills to win. Enemy needs 3 kills.
Got you in my sights.
Match complete. Play of the game.
Meteor strike!
Double, triple kill. Quadruple kill. Arriving at Shadow. Prepare for battle. Select your hero. Three, two, one. Fight.
Last game I was trying to talk for.
Hello there. Hello there.
The cycle begins anew.
Rising above.
Survive on strength alone. He goes down swinging. I appeal. Repetition is the path.
I guess some general 1v1 tips are
Meteor strike!
be careful of right clicking against Widow because it can be a very predictable animation for her to follow.
Adversity is an
So
opportunity.
try to minimize your right straight 1v1 with her. Otherwise,
Fire in the hole!
depending on the situation, you might actually want to right click.
A Temporary setback. Pain is an excellent teacher. Pass into the eye of experience tranquility. The outcome is not your favorite.
Against Doomfist, you really need to go for headshots. And you really need to avoid letting him get too close to you. Tracer, you gotta, if you can Discord her, it'll make your life so much easier because a Discord headshot melee is 150 damage. Exactly, I think. So that'll be more. Finish her off before she can recall.
I welcome adversity. You refuse.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
My systems are repaired.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Oh, that's why
It's hand.
Widow's on this way.
Overconfidence is a flimsy shield. Overconfidence is a flimsy shield. Goes down swinging.
Also, how easy it is to win game-based duels like Widow. It's all about whether you have distance on them or not. Especially against Widows, neither of you have drop-off. So, it's all about who can... The Widow can land the one headshot she needs to kill you before you can land 2 or 3.
Experience tranquility. Pass into the iris. It's hand. Overconfidence is
Whoever just joined, I gave some quick game tips at the beginning of the stream, and I'm actually about to finish up stream. Because I've been going for about an hour now, and I'm kind of like running out of specific tips to talk about. I'm currently doing a try-hard custom game. To practice team with against other game-based heroes. Really sure how the mechanics of aiming.
Bob, do something!
Repetition is the fastest mastery. Meteor strike! I require aid. Swing it.
Man, there be two widows in the top six.
Experience tranquility.
Pathetic.
The outcome is not.
Enemy needs 15 kills to win.
Meteor strike!
Too many cyclones. Also, I guess just kind of a tip because I guess I'm doing it. It's been recommended to me by others as well. Well, and just recommended by pros. Because I guess pros use these as well. Or at least probably these settings, not exactly the same lobbies. But, they use these tryhard lobbies to just work on the mechanics of their aim and warm up. So, I can recommend using these lobbies, and yikes. So,
Meteor strike!
Needs 10 kills to win.
Pain is an excellent teacher. The cycle begins. Experience tranquility. It's Pass into the iris.
Enemy needs 5 kills to win. Enemy needs 4 kills to win. Enemy needs 3 kills. Enemy needs 2 kills.
Meteor strike!
Do something!
The cycle begins.
Enemy needs 1 kill. Match complete.
Personne n'échappe.
Play of the game.
okay. So I guess, summary of the tips I did earlier and, things I was doing in the tryhard custom games or custom FFA, make sure that your crosshair is always where you expect an enemy to be. So then you need to lead your shots. Right click around, charge your right click around corners so that when you peek, you have a volley to unleash. Fire down obscure sightlines because enemies will frequently walk into the sightline without realizing you're firing down it, and you'll get free picks that way. Make sure that your Discord placement but make it a target that your team can chase or you can finish yourself, or Discord something that's high value. So main tanks, supports, flanker DPS are really nice, especially if you're trying to win a duel with them. Play position like a sniper towards the back on high ground when possible, and try to position with your other support player. And you can fire peek around corners, which I guess I'll just do that real quick. Again, just so that I make sure I'm clear about what I mean by that.
True self is without form.
So the idea is you peek, fire, peek, fire. Here. Down. Just peek, peek, peek. And make sure that when you're doing that, if you're against someone that, like a hit skin, like a widow, you don't want to be doing that too often or predictably. So you might have to change the sightline you're firing down, or change the angle so that the widow can't pick where you are. And just generally, you are kind of a third DPS, so make sure you have sightline on enemies, because otherwise you're missing a huge part of his utility in his sheer raw damage that he can do. He can do as much or more than any other DPS in the game, so it's really important to make sure you're getting value out of that damage by hitting headshots and discording targets. So thanks for listening to me ramble at the beginning and end, and then just not talk at all during the middle of the stream. And I hope this helps your Zen play a little bit. Other people to check out would be Jane. He has some VOD reviews on Zenyatta's if you need even more tips. And then also look at some professional Zenyatta players like Sleepy, Jonak, and see what, and if you watch them, you'll kind of try and pick up on what they do. But thanks for stopping by my stream.